Hello and welcome to the channel. For the top 4 round, we've got Jewelry Bonney here at the Miyagi Championships. Inside this top 4, we watched this Bonney in the top 16 match, and if you missed it on the channel, make sure to go back. I've got a whole playlist of all of these tournament matches from this specific event that you can go ahead and watch. And he's going to be facing off against Zoro. So I haven't seen either of these decks really in a long time, right? Bonney having a good sudden surge at the end of 13, but especially with a list of tournaments populated by Ace and Emu, it's going to be a little refreshing to see how this matchup specifically goes. Zoro going first in this match. And before we get going and seeing the players' starting hands, I am re-watching this as a way to practice commentary. I haven't seen it yet, but this event already happened. If you want to go check out the official live stream, you can check it out in the description below. I've always got that there for you. And as players are mulliganing up, let's hear from more from our sponsor. Listen, if you're itching for a brand new playmat, now is the time to check out Nen Garden, the sponsor of this video. Not only do they have brand new pre-orders up on their website for Chaos Crew, Green Fury, and the Absolute Ruler designs, which by the way, are phenomenal. But if you're a fan of Goldie Roger, Nen Garden actually put out a new playmat called The Journey's End, showcasing Goldie Roger himself, and you yourself can find his one piece with the possibility of a 1 in 20 chance to get the special wanted playmat. And on top of that, if you're like me and you absolutely prefer cloth mats, Nen Garden has officially posted on their site cloth mats for Green Fury, Absolute Ruler, Berserk, and Journey's End. Plus, if you want a ton of other great accessories that aren't just playmats, they've got the King of Hearts t-shirt, matching pin, other pins alongside of it through the whole cake island, and even stickers. Make sure with whatever you want in Nen Garden, use my code Atrocious for 8% off. The link to their website is in the description below. Thank you so much for Nen Garden for sponsoring the video. And let's get back to that video. And so we're going to see Zoro here. He's got a couple good cards, right? You have some searches in the early game like Hiyori. You've got the Dracula Mihawk Zoro combo potentially that you can play, right? Zoro cheating out a 4-cost or less slash character. Could also maybe cheat out Kuina. I don't think Kuina would be that great to cheat out, but you could if you wanted to, and also a Cavendish. The Bonney also having a pretty okay hand, I think, as well, especially going second. Could use that 1-drop Bonney on the first turn, and then go in playing the Koshiro Cavendish in consecutive turns and finish out the game with Hody Jones having a 2K Tashigi as well for protection. Zoro and Bonney definitely competing for the top 3 spot in the format right now. Zoro being heralded as the third best deck in the format. Bonney not too far behind him, is just going to play Hiyori and pass off the turn, right? No more Dawn to be able to do some searching. The Bonney going to be doing some searching of her own, but actually passes off the turn, right? Especially if Zoro ends up going in and swinging, he's not going to be swinging at the Jewelry Bonney, right? Especially because you don't have a card to be able to play really on your 4-Dawn turn to utilize. Zoro is going to be starting out with the Hiyori on the search. We see in the Bonney's hand a top deck of the Carrot from the previous turn. Going to be a nice card to utilize to maybe stun some of Zoro's characters and minimize the amount of swings. He finds a couple good cards that he could maybe utilize. A Trafalgar Law, right? A nice blocker and a nice 6-cost that can cheat out your 5s, especially as you pick up different characters. But opts for the Luffy will be King of the Pirates event instead, being able to restand his leader as active for an extra swing in the turn. Now with the 2 Dawn is thinking about just doing a 7,000 power swing at lead, is going to net that first life for the Zoro. And so Bonney now at 4, Zoro at 5. We move into the 4 Dawn turn, top decking another Carrot. So on this 4, you could see something like a 6K swing potentially from lead, or maybe a 5K swing, right? Especially because we're committing 1 Dawn on the search. Trying to find a Supernova, finds a couple cool cards, right? 10-cost Law and Beppo, something that we've seen in these Bonney decks the last several weeks, and also the 7-cost Secret Rare Uta from EB03 is definitely a tech card that I know some players are utilizing in their Bonney lists. Opts for a little bit of counter instead in the X-Drake, and goes ahead and swings a bare 5,000 over at the Hiyori. Probably don't need any other Dawn to be able to commit to that. And the 2 is for the Koshiro, right? Potentially potentially protecting against the 1-cost Bonney to be able to utilize within the next turn. Even at 6, right, if you go ahead and play Cavendish, you'll be able to restand to Dawn, be able to leave one up for leader effect, and also search another turn with the Bonney. We saw in the top 16 match how useful Bonney can be, especially as you get more and more searches, so it'll be curious to see how he utilizes the next couple turns. And with the Kuina in hand from the Zoro, might be interesting to see him play Kuina down onto the field right now to rest this Koshiro and get rid of this character. So utilizing the Kuina effect to rest the Koshiro and attach 3 rested Dawn onto the Zoro is going to be really nice if he wants to go ahead and swing at this Bonney character on the field to, like I said, minimize the amount of searches that they have. Is going to use that activate main now, swing 9,000 power at lead, put Bonney down to 3 life, finds a 9-cost Zoro. So we saw a 9-cost Zoro go to the bottom of the deck. There's another one right there. We know that this player from the top 16 match playing those Zoros. Now Bonney at a 6th on turn has a couple different options that they can utilize, especially with the 5 drops that they have in their hand with Cavendish and the Carrot. It'll be curious on which one they choose, though, with the Cavendish and Carrot, right? If you play the Carrot, that Kuina is not going to be able to utilize the activate main and be able to rest the Koshiro on field and add extra Dawn to Zoro. But on the flip side as well, you probably wouldn't be KOing the Kuina at all. And especially with stuff like 6-cost Law in the deck, Kuina is a very nice option to be able to get out of the field to be able to utilize and maximize that Trafalgar Law. So actually on the Koshiro swing, using the Cavendish as counter, and then with the leader swing, getting it away with the Cavendish now restanding 2 Dawn is going to restand a perfect 2 Dawn for a second Koshiro onto the field. And Koshiro, just a really good card, especially within the Zoro matchup, because if he goes in, maybe plays something like a Tashigi to rest the Cavendish or Koshiro, can't rest both of them at the same time, more than likely. So you're either going to be able to block or keep your Cavendish alive for the next upcoming turn. Does leave 1 Dawn open, though, potentially to be able to rest something if he proactively plays a character before swinging. And we see the 4-drop Zoro come into the hand for the Zoro player, right? A great card in OP13. You may be using it in some of your deck lists. It's great to be able to restand 2 Dawn and force your opponent to swing into it, right? Or have a popping effect, especially in the Bonney matchup where they don't have popping effects and restands at the end of turn. The Carrot is not very effective against this Zoro. You can't actually freeze this Zoro because it is not rested. So not playing the Dracul Mihawk at this point to get the Zoro out onto the field is going to restand to now swing 8,000 power at the Koshiro. The Bonney leader effect is going to rest the Zoro, and now the activate main restanding the leader now goes a hefty 10,000 power at lead, right? Trying to get the Bonney player to go down to 2 life compared to Zoro's 5. Now at the end of turn, with that end of turn phase restanding the Zoro, we pass off to the Bonney's turn, going to 8 now, I believe. So on 8, Dawn does have a couple 5-costs to be able to play. Hody Jones maybe not worth playing at this point right now, but with the 2 is going to go ahead with a Bonney search, try to look in the deck for a specific card, maybe a little bit more counter that they can utilize, and ends up finding Scratchman Apu, a nice Supernova, or a 10-cost Law and Beppo. We talked about it earlier, but 10-cost Law and Beppo, just so nice to be able to proactively rest and free something, but more importantly, give your leader plus 2,000 power through your turn. We've seen in the last couple matches, right, how adding power to your leader is so powerful, especially through your opponent's turn, right, with the Sabo leader effect, with the ace right in the top 8 match. And so a lot of players have been starting to put this in as 1 or 2 copies in their Bonney list as one of their preferred boss monsters. Is going to go in with the Scratchman Apu, though. Just try to get another 2K into the hand. Can't go wrong with getting more counter, is thinking about potentially maybe with X-Drake going in and trying to swing at this Zoro, right? X-Drake, right? If your leader is the Supernova type, you can rest a character with 5 or less on your cost of 5 or less on your opponent's side and restand 1 Dawn as active at the end of turn, allowing you to rest that Zoro, go ahead, try to clear it, tap out all the way, and then because of the end of turn, going in with leader effect. And so instead, going in at life, a 6k swing Zoro is going to take, still very healthy at 4 right now. Plenty of 2ks in hand. Has what, 4 2ks at this point? Is he just going to swing another 7,000 power over at lead, forcing 2 cards out of hand? Maybe thinking about that at this point, playing carrot and leaving 1 open. Zoro is going to take once again and go down to 3, and the carrot is going to come in to hit the field of play, and we see a Toshigi come into the hand for the Zoro off of the life. Toshigi might be nice to be able to rest this pesky blocker on the field, but maybe you go in, you get aggressive with your leader, and the Luffy will be king of the pirates type event. Toshigi would also be nice to be able to rest something like carrot, especially because if you play a 5 cost down with Trafalgar Law as rested, if you don't deal with the carrot, well, it's going to be able to stun that 5 cost for the rest of the game, essentially, as long as it's on the field. So proactively goes ahead and plays 6, does not swing with the Trafalgar Law first, does not want, or I'm sorry, with the Zoro character, does not want to have his Zoro leader get rested. And so with the Peach Momoko, right, Toshigi is going to use that effect to get 3 Dawn onto the Zoro. Now swing freely into this Cavendish, more than likely, battling a character first before restanding. Still has 3 Dawn left open to maybe threaten a Luffy will be king of the pirates type event. Your Trafalgar Law more than likely getting rested on Bonney's leader effect, and the 8,000 power swing now coming in at the Cavendish, once again forcing 2 cards. Law turning sideways, but still relatively healthy, so you're not too worried as of yet. We talked about the Zoro having a healthy hand size with a lot of 2Ks, and actually Bonney has even more 2Ks than that. 5 2Ks in total, especially with a 1K in the other carrot in hand, means that he's going to be able to defend against these swings if he continuously goes at this Cavendish. Is going to go ahead and counter 2K, 1K out of that swing. Zoro now having the ability to activate main and restand. And we'll see if he ends up playing that 3 cost event first before going in with the restand. But no, going in with that now swinging at life is going to put Bonney down to 1, grabbing a 3 cost PRBO2 Bonney off of the life. An extra little 1K counter, which actually could be impactful if the Zoro were to go in with the 3 cost event swing once again. But with the activate main that he's done at this point, if he goes ahead and restands with the event, it's not like he can swing over at the Cavendish at this point anymore, because he already used his activate main. Still can't swing at those big important bodies for the Bonney, so instead opts for some searching. Goes in with the Hiyori, tries to find a little bit of stuff with the slash type characters, ends up going with a Kuina. Kuina can be a very nice card right in this next turn to be able to threaten a situation of lethal, especially if there's only 1 Koshiro on the field, right? We already saw Kuina rest the Koshiro in the previous turn. It's going to force the Bonney to maybe play another blocker at this point, especially with the potential of a couple swings with a character and leader coming in. But with the carrot is able to stun one of those characters, and then when your Zoro leader goes in and swings, well, Bonney can rest the other big body, either Law or Toshigi. In either order, it does not matter. And so Bonney at this point actually going to be battling with Hiyori, right? A 1,000 power difference is going to get the knockout on that search, and now we go in and start swinging with lead, grabbing a 1K on the Bonney swing. Now with carrot swinging 6,000 power over at more than likely at lead, is going to go ahead and freeze the Toshigi, right? A 7 cost or less as rested, using a 2K on there. Is going to go ahead and play a Zoro on the field. So Zoro is going to come out on the field, and Cavendish now coming in restanding to Dawn. definitely not worried about losing anytime soon, especially with the Zoro, especially because the Zoro player, right, does not really have a lot of ways to interact with the Zoro. It kind of forces him in a situation, especially with a Bonney blocker that comes onto the field now having 2 blockers. He's got to go for lethal at this point, especially because on opponent's attack with the 3-cost PRBO2 Bonney, he's going to be able to restand 1 Dawn as active, even though he tapped out all of his Dawn, used up all his Dawn on his turn. So Zoro now definitely in a tricky spot. I think maybe he needs to go for something like Dead Man's Game to have a chance in this one. Dead Man's Game would be able to rest both of the blockers, and even though Bonney still would be able to get their leader effect off, you would be able to more than likely clear out one of these bodies, utilize your Dawn in threatening a Luffy as the king of the pirates, as you revealed that in your hand earlier with Bonney at 1 life. But Bonney, hoarding up the 2Ks, it seems, still has 4 of them in hand. I feel like is in a pretty good spot to be able to move on into the finals of this championship. Starting out with the Trafalgar Law, though, is going to pick up the Tashigi and play it right back down onto the field. Resting the Jewelry Bonney blocker. Getting the 3 Dawn onto the Zoro now means that if Bonney uses their leader effect on one of these Trafalgar Laws, that doesn't mean that they'll be able to swing freely at lead, right? Law could be a blocker in the later stages, especially with that 9-cost Zoro on the field. Now swinging 9,000 power, leaving 3 up in threatening for that event. Bonney is going to use their PRBO2 blocker, Bonney, to be able to use leader effect, right? Restanding 1 Dawn and resting that Law. Now has to decide with 9,000 power, is it worth pitching to 2Ks and a 1K, 3 cards in total. He is going to go ahead and block with the Koshiro right here, and if he decides to restand because of his leader effect, right, as he is doing now you know that this is coming to lead, and both of these swings more than likely coming to lead. You can take this one because you know you have enough counter to be able to get out of this upcoming swing, and now another 9,000 power, especially as you grabbed a 1K off the top, is just going to go in and be 2K, 2K, 1K out of here. He could go a little bit more than that with 2K, 2K, and 2K, right, to get out of the swing, just simply because there may be a situation where he needs to pivot depending on the amount of counter in Zoro's hand to play something like 5-drop Bonney, right? Top taking a Kid and Killer. Going ahead and slamming down the Hody Jones, though, looking like he is on the offensive. Does still have Cavendish to be able to restand Dawn as active, putting him at 5 active Dawn in total at this point. So with the 5,000 power swing is just going to go at lead. Kuina getting out of that one. Does have 2 2Ks in hand to be able to get out of bare 6 swings from the Carrot and Cavendish, but still has to fend off 3 swings from a Zoro and 1 swing from a Hody Jones, especially as 2 Dawn get restood on these Zoro swings. With the Cavendish right here, you're really looking for something like Electrical Luna, I think, at this point, to be able to minimize one of the swings either from the Zoro or Hody Jones, as your Zoros have 2K counter on them. And so does counter out the first swing with just that 2K. Is thinking about maybe going 7 with the Carrot, right? You know that with 1 card in hand and no Dawn left open to be able to utilize for a 1-cost Dead Man's Game plus 3,000 power, you know that a 7 is going to hit life, but you've got to think about your math a little bit. With the Zoro, you need 4 swings to connect, and you have 5 in total left in this game. So you can't let 2 of them be countered. You need 3 Dawn, I think, in total to be able to utilize Zoro's effects, right? That 9-cost secret rare. And so stunning the Trafalgar Law just for, making sure the game state is correct. That 7 is going to connect, finding a little bit of counter, but now with the 9 on the Hody Jones, it's going to be 9,000 power, 9,000 power, and 9,000 power for the final swings. Another 1K on the Perona, the first 9,000 power swing. Not opting to restand the Zoro just in case of something like an Electrical Luna trigger. And so now going in with the restand of the Zoro, going in now actually restanding the Zoro is going to counter out of all of those swings, and now the final swing with no cards in hand forces him to go in for the win. Bonney moving into the champion of the One Piece trading card game, taking down the Zoro after beating a Sabo earlier in this tournament as on streamed. If you haven't seen any of the other matches, make sure to please go check out the playlist that I have on the channel. I have all the matches in a channel as well, and apologize again for these coming out a little bit later than usual and not live streaming this event as we typically do. I had a very busy Saturday with the case tournament that we streamed on this channel, and then Sunday I was super busy helping my friend move across the city. So thank you again so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you soon.